ascending the ranks from junior to intermediate, how to get from a junior dev position to an intermediate dev position. And this doesn't just apply to developers, it can apply to any number of technical fields, or just skills that you might find useful outside of technical experience. So first of all, what categorizes a junior versus an intermediate? For one, of course, your job title, but what that represents really, at least in the eyes of the company, is that a junior dev is meant to implement a task or a project. You're given a specification, you're given a requirement, and you're pointed to something and they say, go do it. You ask questions, you figure it out, and you do it. On the other hand, the intermediate dev, their responsibility is to design or implement projects, or to take on larger initiatives. Not only do they just implement things, they also think about why it's implemented now. What needs to be done in order to make it better? How do other people implement these things? How do I teach them to do it? The junior dev is taught about problems, right? Problems that exist in the system, they ask about, they learn about, and they sort of take an observer view. But the intermediate developer identifies those problems. It's their job to call it out and say, the product could be better if we do this. We should be doing this instead. We should be using this technology. We should be changing to focus on these customers. They're meant to bring those out and tell the product team that these are the important things. These are the things you're missing. The junior dev also maintains quality standards while the intermediate dev sets them. You're not just expected to follow the rules that other people set. You have to show people what that means, how to improve the project, how to use linters. You have to set examples and set higher bars in your code reviews than other people. The junior dev is being mentored, the intermediate dev is able to mentor, the junior dev is learning, the intermediate dev is speaking up and directing and having a say then. At the end of the day, the junior dev is meant to follow, the intermediate dev has initiative. So how do you bridge these things? How do you start from a junior dev and you go to an intermediate dev position? Simple, you fake it till you make it. So we're going to go through a couple pieces. We're going to talk about how to work smarter, and we're going to talk about how to become an excellent engineer, and then how to keep yourself and the company accountable and your manager. So number one, work smarter. The first thing that you want to do as a junior developer, as an intern, as someone new to the company, as someone new to the team, is to figure out how to learn as much as possible. Right? Not only learn what your team is doing, also learn what does the industry look like. What are the best practices here? Start off from work, right? Get enough context from that. Understand what sort of projects are happening, why they're happening, what are the priorities, and what needs to be fixed, right? What's on the radar? What does the company know about, and what don't they know about? The pieces that they don't know about, that's where you need to find that and change that into business value. So first, start from your work, start from your projects. Talk to your coworkers. Talk to your coworkers to figure out what they know. If they're experts in an area, then you need to learn that and learn from their experience, right? Because you always want to be learning from someone who's smarter. You never want to be the smartest person. You want to learn from newsletters, books, blogs, videos. If you're working on, say, C++, then you need to immerse yourself in those sort of communities and understand where is the industry moving. Are you using outdated technology and paradigms from 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Are there better ways to do things that you can introduce? What's the cutting edge? And how far behind are we? How far can we move up? And join communities. Communities like Devfest, communities like student clubs, conferences, hackathons, whatever it is really out there. You want to immerse yourself in those communities, meet different people, and experience what it is like to be an expert in that industry. Proactive. You have to be proactive. A junior dev doesn't learn proactively, generally. An intermediate dev has already learned that they have to learn proactively. They have to take a step out of their comfort zone, talk to people, meet new people, experience what it is that to know what mistakes they're making, and then connect that with what the industry has done better. How do I take a step from where I am to what's better, what's next? You also want to work smarter, right? You don't just want to be working 10, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. you want to be using 40 hours a week to get as much value as possible out of that time. So first of all, you want to ask questions early. Junior devs never ask enough questions. And I say that as someone who's been a junior dev. It's very scary to ask questions. It's very scary to say, I don't understand this. I don't know how to do this thing. I don't know what I need to do. I don't know what thing to connect. I don't understand this. Right? And a lot of the time, people don't understand how you don't understand. So you need to sit them down and say, hey, help me walk through this. Help me explain why the system is built this way. What is the value of this part? What is the value of that part? How does it connect? Because the difference between a junior dev and an intermediate dev is also that an intermediate dev onboards faster. Not always because they know the system, but because they ask more questions earlier. They've learned that you have to ask those questions. You can ask them now, you can ask them later, but you're gonna have to ask them. Pay attention to when other people ask questions, because you really want to understand where the team lags, right? As a junior dev, it feels really scary when you're saying, I don't know how this works, I have no idea about any of it, I feel bad asking 10 questions that stand up. But sometimes you'll notice that your coworkers are doing the same. Sometimes you'll notice that your coworkers and your teammates and your boss are also asking similar questions, like, why does this even exist? Why did you design it that way? Isn't this a problem with the product? So to know that you're not the only one asking these questions, even if you're 3 years in, you can still ask these questions. That's super important. Think about the value that you bring to the team or company. As a junior dev, you bring that brand new insight, those new eyes, those fresh outlooks that say, isn't it better if we, keep the server up 24/7? Why are we doing a deployment where we take it down and put it back up? What's causing this? Is it that we don't care, or is it that we never tried? And if it's never tried, what is the value in that? Can we do that? And that becomes the value that you bring to the company. You brought in new outlooks to say, this could be better, and no one else realized that. You want to prioritize being able to deliver that value when you're doing your work. Not only are you doing your own tasks, but also new things that bring to the team proactive steps towards a better structure and better software. So that's how to work smarter, right? To be more strategic with your time and the value that you bring, because you can work as many hours as you want, it might not be valuable to you or the company. Next is how to become an excellent engineer. So what you want to think about, I'm going to pull the doors out of you. You want to strengthen your developer skills, and this takes time, right? But you can optimize this a little bit. Some of the things that you can do are debug smarter. Use a debug console when possible, right? Use the tools, use the debug symbols, figure out how to get enough log lines in, make sure you're using log trace instead of log info at the right times, making sure that you're getting as much information as possible so you can find the information and the bug, right? And if you're finding the same bug takes you, an hour, 2 hours to figure out every single time, and it's a pattern, then maybe your infrastructure isn't strong enough. Maybe you're missing some debug stuff that could help. Maybe you're missing the log lines or the errors or the messaging, the error reporting that could be useful to you in that situation. So you want to figure out what it is that's keeping you from solving these problems and get better at it. And you want to spend a lot of time on something. At the end of the day, we context switch a lot, but the more time you spend on something, you become a subject matter expert. And not only do you know it, other people know that you know it. Then they're going to come to you and say, hey, Jeffrey, I need help with this thing. I need to make a change, or I see a bug. I don't know how to fix it. Can you tell me about it? Or what does this system do? Why is it built like that? Now, even as a junior developer, you can still start to take ownership of these things. You can still take initiative and say, I am the person who knows the most about this. And because of that, people will start looking up to you. You may be junior in name, but you're an actual owner of the software, right? You're a team member. You also want to do invisible work, right? Not only do you want to code, but you got to do the hard work with the soft skills, mentorship, helping other developers, helping mentor junior developers, interns, workflow improvements, how to optimize the work that you're doing. If you're tests are taking 2 hours to run, no one likes that. No one's going to run tests anymore. So how do you get that from 2 hours to 2 minutes? How do you make sure your deployment process is not once every month, but once a week, or once every night, right? What are these gaps, and what are the infrastructure problems it's solving? And the more you call them out, the more you fix them, the more reliable as an engineer you become. And leadership, you want to step forward and say, I want to work on this, or this is not good, I think we should focus on this, right? I think we should store time like that. It's scary to say that as a junior developer, but you can be respected because you said those things, because you stepped forward and said, I want to make sure we do this right. I want to make sure we're delivering the right value. Right? So step up and say that. Maintain high standards, right? When you're talking about things like code reviews, testing, verification, releases, you want to think about, how do I make sure this is the best quality, right? If people are constantly slipping up in code reviews, that needs to be addressed. You need to say, hey guys, this is a problem, right? And you need to call them out in team meetings, in code reviews, diplomatically, but you need to call them out so that the team knows that, these are the standards, they exist for a reason. Everyone is responsible for them, including you, including everyone else. So you hold them to these standards, and they understand, that as a coworker, quality is important to you. Quality is something that matters, and you can continue upholding it. And that's an example that they want to set. And at the end of the day, be humble, right? I said at the beginning, you want to fake it till you make it, right? A lot of these things are scary, uncomfortable, weird, but you also want to be humble and understand that you can make mistakes. You can say the wrong things. You can make, bugs that crash production. That's fine. It happens to everyone. Be humble about what you do and what you say. Right? You're not just an engineer. You're a teammate. That's what your boss wants. That's what your coworker wants. And you need to figure out, what value do I have as a coworker that I can bring to the team and to the product? Right? And balancing those is tough. Always learn, always be humble, work with others, and continue to expand as an engineer. And you have to give a shit. It's easy to tell when someone doesn't give a shit about the company, about the product, right? Not only do you have to care, at least a little bit about what you're building, you have to care about the quality. Because if everyone is like this, that product is going down in flames. And especially if everyone is like this, but you care about the product, then suddenly you stand out. How can you, get rid of someone or not promote someone who doesn't care about the product? I might have messed that sentence up. I hope you understand. But you don't want to be the person who says this is fine. You want to be the person that says, we can do this better. We need to set a better example. So give a shit. Give a shit about the product. Give a shit about the company. At the end of the day, all of this wraps up into keeping your team, your manager, and your company accountable. Because you can do all of these things and not get promoted. Why? Because one, you didn't set goals, you didn't achieve things that you wanted to achieve, you didn't grow as a person. So you need to set those goals. You need to start by iteratively figuring out, what is it that I want to learn? What is it that I want to be better? Maybe I love pipelines. I want to build better reliability for pipelines because that's a huge problem and it's costing thousands of dollars, millions of dollars. Maybe you want to say, I love building these models and I want to make them faster and more accurate and reliable, right? But set goals and then get better at them. Ask your boss, go in the industry, learn, figure out how to improve on these things. Tell your manager this, and your manager is going to help you bring those work items closer to your goals. And if they don't, then hold them accountable and say, hey, I said I wanted to work on this. I'm not getting a chance. Can I start working on things that are relevant? And you want to track the things that you do in a document. Every single thing that I do, every commit, every code review, every design document that I write goes into a single document. An example is called Bragg Docs. You can take a look at that. This needs to be a listing of everything that you've done. Because as a junior developer, you don't really have a lot of say in that promotion process. But if you can say, I have a 10-page document with all my code reviews, I'm a constant contributor to the company, I bring business value, I bring DevOps value, I bring testing value, I bring product value, how can they say no, right? it's really hard for them to say no once you have proof. So keep track of this, share it with your manager, update it as often as you can, and this is incredibly valuable to your process. If it's not written down, then it probably didn't happen. Who's going to remember the thing that you did a year ago? Even if you did remember, what's the value? Do you remember what you did? Do you remember what it brought and the changes? And from that, once you've kept yourself accountable, you bring this to your manager in your company. You say, hi, I want to get promoted. I want to get to intermediate or senior or whatever it is. What's the promotion criteria? What is the difference between a junior engineer and an intermediate engineer, and what roles do I fill here? Do I check all the boxes? Because you want to be checking as many boxes as possible. Go back to your manager and say, hey, I qualify as an intermediate engineer. Here's the proof. Promote. That's the goal. You also want to talk to promoted people, because if there are specific things that they look for in the process, specific things that are or aren't valuable, you want to know that. So get ahead of that. Identify areas where you don't meet specific criteria. If they want you to be, focusing on testing a lot, and you haven't written any tests because you didn't really want to or didn't have to, then that's something where you say, in the next couple of months, I'm going to set a goal to work on more tests. I'm going to improve the reliability from, testing coverage from 70% to 90%. Right? Not only are you being an example of a good engineer there, you're also writing those things down, and you're ticking the boxes in your promotion criteria. So at the end of the day, if your manager says, you've ticked all the boxes, but I'm not going to promote you yet, that's when you need to push. That's when you need to push and keep them accountable. Follow up with your manager every week, every other week, whenever possible. Every conversation needs to be about this once you've ticked the boxes. Make sure that they know that this is something that's important to you, something important to your career. And because of that, you are also important to the company. And if you're no longer valued by the company, then something else needs to happen. So keep your manager accountable, keep yourself accountable. Use your document as proof. I already talked about this. So in summary, you really need to focus on working smart, not hard, smart. Be a better engineer. Focus on being an example of the best engineer possible. Smart, learnable, good quality, flexible, very knowledgeable subject matter experts. And show that you should be promoted using a document that proves these things. So, thank you for listening. If you'd like to tip, please leave a tip, as is Vancouver culture. Otherwise, any questions?